In this video, I'm gonna give you 5 tips to achieve Spanish fluency that you can start using today. And make sure you stick around until the end because I'm gonna give you an extra tip, something that helped Jim a lot when he first started learning Spanish. Empecemos. Hola amigos, Mai here from Spanish and Go, your resource for learning real-world travel Spanish. And today we're talking about fluency, how to become fluent in Spanish and how to improve your speaking skills in Spanish. So if you're watching this video, you probably feel stuck in your Spanish. You probably know some vocabulary, some phrases, but the minute you have to actually use your Spanish and speak with a native speaker, you freeze and you don't know what to say. You feel awkward because you don't know if the things you're saying are right, if the person is understanding, and all of that. I went through the same things when I was learning English, but let me tell you, that feeling is not going to be there forever. You're not always going to feel awkward when trying to speak Spanish. There are a few things you can do today to help you improve your speaking skills and become more fluent in Spanish. And we're going to get started with number 5. Listening. Now, we've talked about listening before in some other videos, but really, listening is the best thing you can do to improve your Spanish, to improve your speaking skills, and to become more fluent. Why? Because when you're listening, you are getting all the information your brain needs to actually speak the language. Now, there are 2 ways of listening. We have passive listening and active listening. Passive listening is when you are doing something, let's say doing dishes, and then you put on your Spanish music, or you're driving and you're listening to a Spanish talk show, and the words and phrases are not really making sense maybe to you. You're just listening and you're focused on doing something else. That's passive listening, when whatever you're hearing is there, but you're not really focusing on what they are saying. Now, on the other hand, we have active listening. Active listening is when you are listening to something, but you are focused on trying to understand words and phrases you are hearing. For example, when you are listening to music and you notice a word, then you're doing some active listening. You are paying attention to the lyrics, to what the singer is saying. Same thing happens when you are watching a movie and you have Spanish subtitles and you are reading the subtitles and you're also paying attention to the gestures when they're talking. So that is active listening. You are paying attention and you are trying to understand what the person is saying. Now, passive listening is great when you just want to get used to the way the language sounds. But if you really want to become fluent and if you want to improve your speaking skills, you have to do more active listening. So next time you're listening to music in Spanish, go ahead and look for the lyrics. Try to read the lyrics as you're listening to the songs in Spanish and try to understand the phrases, the words. You don't have to have a dictionary there or translate everything. Just notice the words and the phrases used. And then next time when you listen to the song, you're gonna notice, oh, here is where this word goes and this is what it means. You can also try to memorize the lyrics of this song. And once you have memorized them, you can start singing. Whenever you hear the song, you're gonna be able to say the words and phrases in the song, and that's gonna help you notice how the language is used in a natural way. You can actually do this with pretty much anything you can find in Spanish, with movies, with talk shows, with the news, anything you're listening to. You can try to focus on what they're saying. Don't just let the words go through your brain. Try to focus and pay attention to the words. See if you can identify a word or a phrase here and there and notice how these words are used. This is a great way to become fluent or to improve your speaking skills, because once you have identified these words and phrases, you are going to be more used to the way they sound and you're going to be able to use them in a natural conversation. Tip number 4. Now, this is my favorite one. I don't know if this happens to you. Let me know in the comments. But I think we all have like a different voice or a different personality when we are speaking our second language. And you have to get used to the way you sound in your second language. English is my second language, and I learned English when I decided that I wanted to become a language teacher. And I have always felt that I'm a different person when I'm speaking English. Not in a bad way, it's just that the experiences I've had with my first language are different to the experiences I've had with English. I have noticed that it's harder for me to express myself in Spanish when I'm talking about things that I have only experienced in English. For example, everything about starting Spanish and Go and having this channel and being self-employed. I have learned those things in English. So it's hard for me to talk about those things in Spanish. But if I'm talking to a friend and she asks for a recipe, it's way easier for me to give her the recipe in Spanish, because with my mom, we always talk about recipes in Spanish and I know the vocabulary to use in that situation. So that's why I feel like the experiences we have in each language make us a slightly different person. And you have to get used to the way that person sounds. This is gonna make it way easier for you when you're actually trying to communicate with a Spanish native speaker. You're not gonna be ashamed to use your Spanish because you already know how you sound in Spanish. And there are different things you can do to help you with this. One of them is recording yourself. You can also simply talk to yourself in Spanish. For example, let's say that you're taking a shower, you can be talking to yourself in Spanish. If you don't want to sound like a crazy person, you can do this in your head. But it's actually more effective when you do it out loud, because you can actually hear how you sound in Spanish. And then when you are in a situation when you have to use your Spanish, you already know your voice, how it sounds in Spanish. So you're not gonna be like, oh, it sounds weird, it sounds funny, because you're gonna be used to the way you sound in this language. So talk to yourself in Spanish as much as possible. It's okay if people think you're crazy. You're just becoming better in Spanish and you're becoming more fluent in the language. Tip number 3. But before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe for more travel and Spanish tips. Now, the third tip is imitating. So basically listening and repeating. Now, I know that you may be thinking that that's boring, that it reminds you of your high school Spanish lesson when you would only listen and repeat to your teacher. But there's a reason why listening and repeating has been used all over the world for learning a language in a classroom. And that's simply because it works. Listening and repeating to the right material will expose you to the way a language sounds naturally. You get to hear words and phrases being spoken by a native speaker or someone who has a good understanding and a good accent of the language you're trying to learn. In this case, Spanish. Now for this tip, what you're gonna wanna do is to look for material where native speakers of Spanish are speaking. Let's say a movie or a podcast where you can actually listen to the way a native speaker sounds, and then you can stop whatever you are listening to or watching and repeat right after. You're gonna wanna do this very often, and this is gonna help you learn the way the language is spoken naturally. No overly academic words or phrases that you would only find in textbooks, just the way native speakers of Spanish speak on a day-to-day basis. Tip number 2, paraphrasing. Now let's say that you're watching a movie in Spanish, you have your subtitles on, you are doing active listening, you're listening to whatever they're saying, you're pausing, you're also repeating some phrases here and there. But after you watch the movie, you can go to a friend and you can tell them the whole story of the movie you just watched in Spanish. Now, this is gonna help you a lot with fluency because it's gonna give you all the words and the vocabulary you need to tell a story. It's okay if you don't have all the details right. This is more about you telling a story, you using the language and actually speaking or telling a story, in this case, to another person and maybe having a conversation from that. This is gonna help your brain put ideas together and use your language skills to speak and to become fluent in the language. And don't focus too much on the details, on knowing if everything was right or you said something wrong. Simply speak the language. You get extra points if you do this out loud. We're gonna leave a link in the description of this video where you can go and download a PDF document with many other activities you can do to help you improve your fluency today. And tip number 1, get used to making lots of mistakes. Now, fluency is not about being perfect when you're speaking a language. Fluency is about following a conversation and being able to flow in that conversation, knowing that you have words and phrases that you can use and you have the structures, maybe not 100% correct, but being able to use what you have learned without hesitating too much or without having too much trouble. But in order for you to become fluent in a language, you have to speak, you have to use the language. And there's no other way you're gonna be able to do this than by practicing with a person, with a real person. And now I know that you're probably thinking, well, I don't have anyone to practice with. But there's a lot of ways that you can go about finding people, native speakers of the language you want to learn or you want to practice online. We're gonna leave a card here of another video where we talked about the different ways you can practice with native Spanish speakers for free. There's no way you're going to improve your speaking skills or become fluent in a language if you don't try and fail a few times. So get used to making mistakes. Embrace your mistakes because you learn from them. It's way better to have someone correct what you're saying, and then every time you're about to make the same mistake, you're gonna stop and, okay, oh yeah, I remember my friend told me this is not correct, so I'm gonna change it. And this is the best thing you can do to become fluent. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and even native Spanish speakers make mistakes, most of them without realizing, but there's no reason to be ashamed of your mistakes. Your mistakes are there to help you learn, so embrace them. And now for that extra tip I told you at the beginning of the video, something that helped Jim a lot. When he first started learning Spanish, he would have a vocabulary list, something where he would write down all the new words and all the new expressions he learned every single day. This helps him so much because every night before going to bed, he would go through the list and practice the words, and we would talk about the conversations we had when he learned these words. I remember the night we met, we went to a restaurant, we were about to order something from the menu, and we were going through all the things they had at the restaurant, and we saw something with queso de cabra, but instead of saying queso de cabra, he said queso de cobra, and it was very funny. And I remember he wrote it down. He wrote queso de cabra, not queso de cobra, on his vocabulary list. And until now, whenever we talk about it, it's really funny. I'm pretty sure he's never gonna forget that cabra means goat and cobra means cobra. So having a vocabulary list and going through the words and phrases you are writing every single day is gonna help you a lot, building up your vocabulary, having more words or more tools to use whenever you are speaking a language, whenever you're speaking Spanish. So make sure every day Whenever you learn a new word, a new expression, write it down. Make a list of all the words you are learning every single day, and before you go to bed, go through them. Go through the words, go through the phrases, say them out loud, repeat, and make sure you're practicing every single day. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you have any other tip to help you become more fluent in Spanish. Now don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, el camino es el destino. The journey is the destination. Nos vemos pronto.